This is season 3 with Britnie Faith Turner
and Jerremy Alexander Newsom.
Broke to woke. She went from living in her car to living in a 30,000 square foot castle in a decade. How did she do it? Let's talk about that right now. Britnie Faith Turner. It's time for the world to know.
What?
You have been working on something for half a decade, 25% of a score, and you haven't told anyone other than very close friends and family.
Which includes you.
Yes. Are you ready?
I'm ready. You know, there's a lot of quotes out there about working on your big dream in secret, not announcing it because you don't want other people to kill it.
Those Instagram quotes, right?
I know. They're out there.
Don't tell everyone. Grind in secret.
Grind in secret and they'll know. And that is what I did. I have worked on the biggest project, the biggest impact maker, and a huge life dream for the last 5 years, and I've never been public about it. And I've not been public because this has been such a manifestation of the heart. This project embodies so many values, and I wanted to develop it and honestly hear God. I know there's a lot of opinions that come with buying a private island, developing it out, and looking to make the most impactful resort to ever exist. But I had to hear God on how to do this. I've never done it before. No idea. And this last year, we brought it to life. And it has been the coolest thing I've ever experienced to see what Billy Alsbrooks likes to say is beautiful is the day the genius finds out they ain't crazy. And that was a beautiful day, as all these ideas are put into actual operations. But to see the lives changed of the people that have come through this space has just been heartbreaking. I mean, it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting, a very key phrase, a takeaway from me, the manifestation of the heart. I think a lot of people, when they hear manifestation, they might think mind. Is there a distinction there for you for this being a manifestation of the heart versus one of the mind and the thoughts?
I've honestly never said that phrase out loud. You
Correct.
Always draw these things out of me.
I do. That's my point.
It's amazing. A manifestation of the heart is every desire God put in there that is from Him, not something you could have thought of or seen on Instagram or seen someone else do, but it's something that was placed in your heart for you to bring into reality, manifested despite the fact it may or may not have ever been done before, and it may not have been done by somebody that looks like you in any way. And so it requires a whole new level of faith to be able to bring it into reality because you don't have human affirmation. You don't have proof that it's going to work. And it is scary to try.
Terrifying.
But you have got to know, no matter what the obstacles, no matter what hurricane, no matter what pandemic, no matter what fire, no matter what life betrayals take place on the journey, that it's still supposed to happen. And I've met so many people, especially Christians, that believe that the door was closed. God closed the door. And I want to tell you that that's not true. If it was true, then none of my life was God's way of doing anything because I've hit nothing but obstacles. But I always, again, went what we call aerial, which is asking for that bigger picture. What's the path I'm not seeing? What's the other way to get there that isn't the path I may have thought was the right one with my limited information and limited perspective? What is that possibility that I'm not asking the right questions on? And with that perspective, you're able to bring things, like we said, into reality that may never have existed before.
I love that answer so much. I want the listeners out there to know this piece when you said that this is something that might not have achieved or might not have been done by anyone who looks like you. So for those listeners, keep this in mind. Sure, things have been done in the past by numerous people, but if you can look back and go, well, no one in my family has ever achieved this level of whatever, fame, success, notoriety. That might be the limiting belief. It might not be that, yeah, if you're a white male like myself, well, we've done a lot. Essentially. Okay. You can point to a lot of white men who've accomplished things. But let's just go back for a moment. It could be in your vicinity. It can be in your family. It can be in your religion. It can be in your tribe. It could be in just your aspect and your belief system, your friendship circle. There's so many relational ways that can relate back to how that belief might be yours, but it needs to transcend that. It needs to go beyond what they think, what other people think is possible, because you mentioned the word planted. Oftentimes, our dreams and visions of success and achievement were given to us by someone else. We read it in a magazine, or we saw it in a movie, or we were able to receive it from someone else that wasn't placed in us. It wasn't planted in us. I love that distinction.
Well, humans are always looking for permission. And that's very much the way that we survive as like a herd, I guess. We do stick together. We are better. We're less likely to get eaten by dinosaurs or cougars if we stick together. And so we want permission from the village leader that it's okay. And a lot of times that village leader needs to be somebody that looks like you. Okay, it's okay for women to blah.
Yeah.
It's okay for, people of whatever color to do blank in blank country. You know, yes, you are a white male, but that's not okay in XYZ country.
True.
So depending on where you are and what you're trying to accomplish, it's super important that again, you have that, the ability to hear that guidance, because it might look like the craziest scenario. You might not be the right color, age, or gender to do what you're called to do, but when you get there, you will have a grace to be able to do it. And it might not make any sense to a normal human because it's not the checkbox way of doing life in what society says is the path to success. But you could have the grace to accomplish it if you know that that is right for you. And it doesn't mean you're not going to doubt it. Like I doubted.
Sure.
I doubted all the time. We're always looking for a sign that you're wrong and all that stuff. But again, that level of clarity allows you to filter through all these objections, all these fears, and all these obstacles to know you're still on the right path, even if it's not easy. It's not a sign because it's not easy. It's a sign that you are called to potentially be the permission giver to somebody else in your family that's never reached those heights, that's somebody that looks like you, that's somebody in, whatever it is. If you have not seen it done, it doesn't mean it's not for you. It means you're the permission giver.
Let's go. Hope you're writing that down. That's a big one. You mentioned hearing it. We're on your island as we're recording this. When did you first hear it?
Well, everybody who's listening to this has likely heard my story. And that story is that I wanted to be a missionary since I was 12 years old. And Newsom in the last episode said, God will never give you something you can't handle. This is something that God's been showing me my whole life, good or bad. And so where some people get lost is they get an initial picture, like I did at 12. I saw a vision of me in Africa. I didn't know where, but I was serving and I felt the all-consuming presence of God. And that's an undeniable experience if you've ever felt it. And that consuming peace and love is like, okay, I should get back to that. Like I want to build the rest of my life getting back to that experience. And so I thought that was the full picture. But I didn't know I was seeing in part because that's all I could handle at 12. I never saw wealth before. I didn't have any rich friends at all growing up. If God had shown me the full picture of what I was capable of achieving back then, I wouldn't have taken that first step because I would have never thought that that was even a possibility for me. And so what's fun is you have to call it fun. You have to label it fun in your brain. If not, it can be stressful if we want to have everything figured out in our survival mind. But what's fun is taking that next step and watching things unfold to be bigger and more amazing than you ever would have dreamed. And again, even if something you would classify as bad or unfortunate or problematic happens, you still call it a blessing. You label it a blessing. Label it a blessing and watch how it comes back to serve you later, or that you have a grace to be able to speak into somebody's life that needs to hear how to overcome that obstacle, but isn't as strong as you to be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're being given so much wisdom on this journey. So at 12, I have this vision, and I started taking those steps. So I go to a survival school, and that survival school, I go on all these different mission trips up to even that survival school, and I'm getting more frustrated that I'm not actually helping people. So then I ask God, how do I really help people? And He guides me into becoming a real estate developer that's transforming regions and bringing opportunity to hopeless places and creating jobs that wipes out poverty, getting attention to these communities so that they have other options versus selling their kids into sex trafficking, versus doing terrible things or drugs because they don't have education or opportunity. And most people will do the right thing if it's accessible to them. And that's what my focus has been in real estate development. Isn't to build a house here or there. It's getting opportunity into regions that need it most. And that goal was to be able to practice in my own backyard so I could do it in Africa. And I'm not going to say I had some crazy level of peace this whole journey. I'll tell you, I was actually secretly mad at God, even though I was winning Forbes' 6th fastest growing women-owned company in the world and Fortune #3 in the US. And I've won a lot of really cool awards, like walls full of them. And none of them meant anything to me because I wasn't saving the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to get to saving that kid. And I said, God, I'm really good at doing this thing, but how do I get from here to there? And He said, start on islands. And I was like, islands? I heard loud and clear, start on islands. Develop a resort that brings in the greatest minds in the world to be able to master plan the recovery of nations. Because if you've ever been to a developing country, they have needs. And how would we even know it's a need unless we've seen it done before?
Mm-hmm.
So if we've ever solved poverty or desperation, or I have met families that have sold their kids for $25, knowing what's going to happen to them. But they did it because the rest of the family would die if they didn't do it. Just like we met families in Afghanistan that were having to prioritize which kid gets out. You have to pick and order them. Why are they doing that? Because of the level of desperation. So thankfully, most people listening to this have never had to make that horrible decision. But if it's ever been done before, we can do it again. So what is the template for having a successful, thriving economy where humans have opportunities and can live nice lives? That's the kind of thing you learn when you're living in your freaking car, okay?
Yeah.
You become really organized when you are living in your car. My mom will tell you, I was a sloppy kid and I did not have a lot of order, but I developed checklists when I couldn't afford to make the same mistake twice because I would starve to death. And so that templating is what other people are great at. So how can I get the best in the world on developing hospitals, developing roads, water systems, sewage systems, food, jobs,
Bingo.
in a room and say, how do we truly help Haiti? Because so many people want to help Haiti and so much help has gone through Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it not truly in a better state? It's because there's no master plan. And so everybody that does go there actually moves the ball forward and helps to progress, because at some levels, a lot of times through disasters or whatever, people need a hand up, not a hand out. A hand out just destroys human dignity. So how do we give countries a hand up? By sharing best practices. And so that was the purpose of this resort. Now that has progressed into so much more, which we'll talk about in later episodes. But that was the vision.
Right. That's when you heard it. And it's so, I don't know, interesting or unique. One of those two words. But when you mentioned that you're shown something, a vision, the future, but you were only shown what you would have been able to believe at that time.
Right.
Think about that.
Through every step.
Yeah. Think about that, my dear friends. Like you might be showing something now that you're like, oh, well, that's amazing or incredible. That's just one small part. I was told 4.5 weeks ago by Britnie's mentor that I'm playing small. And she did this in front of, some of our best friends and other future leaders and amazing, amazing people. And I'm over here like, how? I'm really trying hard. Mm-hmm. But then I realized you're right. She's 100% right. I am. You are. We all are still playing small. There's a very, very popular term that our brains, we're only using 10% of our capacity. The vast majority of humans are using only 10% of what the brain can do.
Everybody except Elon.
Correct. Everyone except him. He's doing good.
Shout
out to our boy Elon. We'll be hanging out with you soon, man. But you're at least 20%. But 10% of our brains, that's phenomenal. And so for me, it's probably 3%. So how can we start to, okay, I see these visions, I see these ideas, these beliefs, these dreams, these hopes, these aspirations. Where can that lead to? And one of the ways to figure that out is to sit around, to be around people, to network around people that have seen it, will see it, can help you see it. We're going to continue to give that for each listener here as we progress through season 3 on how they too can not only see their dream, but lay out the plans, lay out the groundwork, the foundations, the steps to receiving that.
And they're all best guesses. That's 100%. The thing is
100%.
I think I've seen that's one of my greater attributes is I do have grace to know what I don't know, but am willing to take a step. A lot of people, especially women, feel like we have to have it perfectly figured out.
Especially women.
And you have to have it perfectly figured out before you go. And it's like, no, let's not be idiots and walk into battle with no weapons. But you don't know exactly what weapon you would need unless you were in the battle.
Yeah.
I'm now married to somebody that was in the special forces. So there's a lot of battle references that I'm used to making now.
That's right.
Take your best guess and then do your best when you get there. So it's all a guess because you don't know. But if you can have that inner resiliency that says, I'm not going to stop no matter what the path ends up being. I'm still going in that direction by God. And that's why it's so important for you to clarify the purpose in your life. Your purpose isn't, I'm going to live in Africa and rescue kids that are being trafficked. That's what my purpose used to be. But when I distilled down, okay, what are you really trying to do? You're serving.
Yep.
And so how can you find joy and meaning and fulfillment every day on the path of serving and rescuing kids in Africa that are being specifically trafficked is an expression of my purpose.
It's expression of that servitude.
Broke to woke, an expression of servitude.
Yes.
All the work that you and I get to do together globally, an expression of your purpose. But it's all of it is holy. All of it is worthy. And so many people are living beating themselves up because they're not living this one Instagram highlight reel of exactly what they wanted to do. It's not that. Find joy, find fulfillment, find all of that in the day-to-day on the path to doing the cool moments. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode.